welcome back to Fireside Knicks with your boys Alex and Ryan. So we're in the dead of the offseason, my friends. Nothing's going on. Obviously the Olympics, Team USA dominates and completely just demoralized France in the finals there. So you're seeing Frank Ntilikina getting a start. Crazy. Old Knicks, new Knicks all over the place. But today we want to talk about a not-so-secret weapon for the Knicks. If you're a Knicks fan, this is a very much a known weapon, but if you're not a Knicks fan and you're an outsider, your team's playing us, your postseason situation, your team's playing us, I think one of the low-key pieces on this team remains Miles McBride. And I want to talk about Miles McBride, what his role will be this upcoming season, because, you add Mikal Bridges, you add OG Anunoby back on an extension, you bring in Campaign, you bring in Tyler Kolek. Like, where does Miles McBride's role stand? Like, what is he supposed to do this year? Where are the minutes coming from? Where can he get a little bit of that share and make an impact, really? Because he took a big step forward last year. The Knicks did not want to trade him, and I'm happy they didn't. He's on one of the most efficient contracts, making $3 million per season. His shooting percentage is skyrocketed. He's a great, solid young defender. I think he's going to get plenty of playing time, Ryan. But, thinking about what his role is this upcoming year, as this kind of not-so-secret weapon for us, but maybe a secret weapon for others, how do you envision Miles McBride working into the equation, getting into the rotation again, and how do you think the Knicks kind of deploy him?
So Miles McBride is interesting because we know he's not a traditional point guard. He's not the kind of guy that's gonna dish out assists, facilitate in the way that maybe more traditional point guards would. But I think the offensive package in terms of scoring it's good. Like, I think he's a reliable 3-point shooter. He's shown the occasional ability to create for himself. Defensively, he provides a lot of value there. The Knicks have done a great job with this two guard archetype where they'll run some sets with Brunson and McBride out there, and it works. And I don't think that's because the Knicks necessarily want to have those two share the court all the time, but rather because I think they do a really good job of, just generating a ton of offense. And this team, the Knicks last year in the postseason struggled a lot defensively. They lacked their personnel. They didn't have a lot of their guys healthy. They were running shorter rotations. It makes sense. Guys are getting tired out easier. Their offense remained awesome, and McBride was a big part of that. I think Deuce McBride I don't think he's the leader of this team in terms of 6 man of the year candidates. I think their top bench scorer will be Dante DiVincenzo. But man, DiVincenzo, McBride, he's got the potential to certainly be that 6 man of the year kind of guy. Do I think he's the same player that Emmanuel Quickley is? No. I think Emmanuel Quickley is a much better player than Miles McBride is. Do I think he can be a better player than what Quentin Grimes was when Quentin Grimes was getting it going? That really his second year in the league. I think he's capable of providing that kind of value, if not more. And Alex, the way he handled an increased role in the season was brilliant. There were games where it was decided by Deuce McBride stepping up and playing his ass off. It's unfortunate that Game 5 we lost that game against Philly, because had we won that game, I think we would be looking at that as the crowning moment for Deuce McBride, who, it was that he was supposed to put that game away with that floater, but of course, Philly storms back. Doesn't really matter in the end. We end up winning in 6. Who cares? But I really feel like McBride has evolved into a confident scorer, into the kind of scorer who can have an impact on this team for a good amount of time. And as you mentioned, his contract is remarkable. Now, if the Knicks choose to go out and get a big-time player, I'm sure that McBride's name will float in trade conversations because, man, that contract is one of the most valuable in the NBA. There are not a lot of players who are as young and as effective as McBride are making that kind of money. I understand kind of on both sides of the ball, on one hand, or both sides of the argument. On one hand, McBride is going to make this team better. On the other, if the Knicks have an opportunity to improve at a position of need, i.e. the center position, they're going to look at anyone on their roster that they could potentially move to make that upgrade. The Knicks are pretty, the best way to put it is they're pretty ruthless, and they're pretty ruthless in terms of who they're willing to trade. I think they would be willing to trade basically anybody on this team outside of Anunoby and Brunson, obviously Bridges because they just got him. It seems like they know what they like, and McBride, I'm not saying he's going to get traded. I'm just throwing out that the Knicks. I don't think either of us have the conversation of trading McBride with the hopes he gets traded. Rather, we just saw RJ Barrett get traded. We just saw Emmanuel Quickley get traded, and that kind of thing. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, this Knicks team trading Emmanuel Quickley, trading RJ Barrett, Look, RJ really never felt like a true fit here. I like OG Anunoby with his defensive prowess. I think he's an underrated scorer. I mean, his perimeter shooting was solid for us down the stretch. The injury issues, yeah, like that may be a little concern, but I'm not overly concerned about it because of the depth we have on this team now. They can afford to supplement these things. But you look at, of course, Bridges, who is a solid shooter, energizer. He doesn't miss games. He plays tons of minutes. He's a great defender. Now you have the starting group here, and Dante DiVincenzo on most teams is a starter. Josh Hart on most teams is a starter. Miles McBride on some teams is a starter. Miles McBride is fighting for freaking minutes now, Ryan. He is fighting for the opportunity to get on the freaking court, and there are teams that would love to have him starting games for them, right? The Brooklyn Nets are one of them. They wanted him. A team like the Pistons, probably, would he be competing for minutes there, or maybe with Jaden Ivey? There's so many teams that would look at a guy like Miles McBride and say, yeah, that guy's an elite defensive player, can, guard up point guards, smaller guards, and shoot at a very efficient clip, and he's got more upside. He's still not even reached his potential yet. It's possible the Knicks end up using him in a trade for a center, but I don't think they should. They should try to avoid that at all costs because, listen, on a contract like his, you have a young key component for a long time, and injuries do happen. The Knicks do deal with these things, and we know this. Now, the hope is that they don't, but you have to be realistic, and an NBA season is long, it's grueling, and things happen. But one of the things that stood out to me against the Indiana Pacers in that semifinals was the Knicks' lack of depth, right? They lost OG Anunoby, they lost Julius Randle, and they lost Mitchell Robinson, and they didn't have much behind them. They really struggled to get going. Miles McBride was playing 25 plus minutes per game. Josh Hart was playing every single minute of every single game. They were leaning on, the Precious Achiuwas of the world, which good depth piece, but, obviously not the best scorer, solid defensive player. They were leaning on guys like Alec Burks to go in, who literally was a turnstile defensively, but otherwise scored some points for us and kept us alive at times. I don't want to be trusting Alec Burks in key moments. I'd rather have Miles McBride, who can play great defense and score equally as efficient, if not better. Right? That's kind of where the Knicks are now. You're never going to see an Alec Burks in the court. You're going to see Miles McBride as their third option, Ryan. How important is it that you have this level and competency in the depth department when the postseason rolls around? Because we saw what happens when you don't. And the Knicks got the breaks beaten off them by a team that barely had Tyrese Halliburton. He was basically on one leg. Guy was on wheelies. And he didn't play the last couple games. So, you think about Andrew Nembhard cooked us alive. This is where you kind of ask yourself, or you look at the Knicks team right now and say, well, we have a much better situation, and I think you would agree with that.
Fully agree. Depth is important. Depth is how the Boston Celtics won a championship. They ran 9 deep. That team had, it doesn't matter if it's their second unit out there. It doesn't matter if Brown and Tatum are both off the court. They still have a good unit out there. That's what depth does, right? Like you can assemble any combination of New York Knicks players, and you go, this is a positive net rating group right here. This group should perform well. Granted, your one key weakness is, you're not sure Precious Achiuwa is a backup center, but hey, we'll wait and see. What I wanted to mention also is in his last 47 games, Miles McBride averaged 11.1 points a game on 41% shooting from 3, 87.5% from the free throw line, and 45.1% overall from the field. That's really good efficiency and pretty good scoring. He was scoring 11.1 points a game on 8.9 shots a game. That's pretty damn good. And defensively, as you mentioned, he's a pest. He creates a lot of havoc there. I wonder if the Knicks, maybe he's a better fit. Alongside certain players and others. I wonder if, having those sets where you ran Brunson, DiVincenzo, and McBride wasn't really... I wonder if those sets don't really work because you have 3 guys where, they're smaller players. It's kind of just... There's a certain extent in which you can be a good defender and be 6'1", 6'2". It's just... I'm all due respect. You could be the best defensive point guard I've ever seen. What are you going to do when Giannis is there, right? You know what I mean? When a 7-foot guy is running at you and you're basically a foot shorter, there's not much you can do. I think sets where they have Randall on the floor with McBride, where they have maybe it's Anunoby or Bridges, 2 of those 3 players on the floor with McBride, alongside one of their guards, maybe it's Kolek, maybe it's DiVincenzo, maybe it's Brunson, I don't know. Having Robinson on the floor, I think that they should emphasize having McBride and Robinson get minutes together. I know Precious Achiuwa, again, he's a quality player. I just don't know if he's necessarily a big. And if you want to run sets where you have Randall and Achiuwa out there, maybe that would work for me. I know that people have talked about maybe you do a small ball lineup with Randall at the 5, but I don't know if I necessarily love that. I haven't really I don't know if that would really work. But Alex, I think overall McBride is a good player. McBride is the kind of guy that I think could start on a really good team, and he's coming off your bench. And I kind of feel like I'm looking at this roster, look at this bench. It's like DiVincenzo, yeah, he's a championship caliber starter. He won a championship on a team that he was starting on until he got hurt. You have Josh Hart. Now you mentioned Josh Hart. Josh Hart. I mean, you want to tell me he's not a championship caliber starter? Like, of course he is. He's remarkable. The level of guys they have off the bench that can start for a really good team is going to help them come postseason. They'd have to have so much go wrong for them to not have a quality lineup come, the postseason. Whereas last year, it didn't take much for them to have a not good lineup. It took only a couple of injuries here and there for it to be, shit, how are these guys going to get past, the first round? How are these guys going to get past the second round? And you're going to have injuries in the postseason too. Guys are going to get banged up. So, the question is whether these guys can beat Boston. And I don't know that for sure. We'll have to figure that out this season, but I'm not looking past anybody. I'm just saying, like, Alex, I think it's fair to say that right now our focus is, can they beat Boston or not?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Philadelphia 76ers have Paul George now. That doesn't really scare me that much. I mean, he's a great scorer, but what we saw from him this past postseason was not the Paul George that we've seen in years past.
It's also not crazy to say that we can beat Philly. I think the thing they actually have to prove is that they can beat Boston in the postseason. Boston earned that unbelievable level of, like, just look down on everybody in the East. They stomped everybody.
Yeah, they killed. But
everybody.
I mean, listen, they did stomp everybody, but they were taking on, like, the Heat without Jimmy Butler. They were taking on the Pacers without Halliburton. They were taking on, the Mavericks, who looked like they just, I mean, Doncic was a shell of himself. He was hurt.
Oh, for sure. I'm not saying Boston's
they had a cakewalk to the finals, and this Knicks team is deep enough that they're going to battle. Like, if the Boston Celtics beat the Knicks, they're going to be crawling to the finals after that. Like,
I'm not trying to say that, like, they're
no,
like
no,
the
I know.
Warriors.
No, for sure. No. I'm just maybe. But I'm agreeing with you, though. Like, the Knicks need to take on the Celtics. I think that they could beat the Philadelphia 76ers because they have the defenders to do it now and the scorers. And the depth to do it. Like, the 76ers depth, once Joel Embiid is off that floor, they're going to get cooked. They're going to need him playing all the time. And Mitchell Robinson put on a show. Again.
Yeah,
and give a healthy Robinson. It's gonna be a beautiful sight.
You also have to, you also wonder, is there going to be any age regression with Paul George, who, again, I think is actually a really good fit for them. But
I think defensively, he's regressing.
You just know that there's a reason you can beat Philly. Like, Boston, it's not that they don't have, like, issues on their team. Like, their center position's a little bit like, it's a little iffy. But it's still Porzingis and Horford. And Al Horford is a remarkable backup big. Porzingis, when he's healthy, is a remarkable big. You just have to you have to be able to prove you could beat them. And then the Western Conference is interesting. Like, I don't think there's a, like, the Nuggets are really good, but I think they're also a flawed team that's kind of losing more depth. I feel that way about a lot of teams at the top of the Western Conference. This is really the first time where the Knicks are like, are they a top 5 team in the NBA coming into this season? And it's weird. It's new territory for us. You know what I mean? This is like, I remember being like, hey, we won a playoff series. This is great. What a phenomenal freaking year. And, like, last year, it's like, all right, we got things to work on. This is new territory for this team, and it'll be interesting to see how they deal with the heightened expectations. Because now, if they lose in the second round, we're gonna be disappointed. Like, it's not gonna be a good year. We showed fight. No, it's gonna be like, hey, how did you not get past second round again? You know what I mean? That would be 3 years in a row. There are expectations now. I wonder how this team responds to that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's going to be a year where the Knicks are considered a favorite, along with the Celtics, along with the 76ers. It's going to be a battle. And they can sustain the injuries. They just have to be, relatively healthy for the majority of the season and go into the postseason on a high note and healthy in general. I think that Tom Thibodeau he does this thing, and everyone knows this. He leans into his players, and he plays them a lot. But I think what made the Celtics so good was that they rested their starters very efficiently. They had a perfect equation in giving Tatum and Brown. I mean, obviously Porzingis got hurt, but the majority, Drew Holiday, they gave them the perfect amount of rest at the right times to keep them healthy. The Knicks now have the depth in DiVincenzo and Josh Hart to keep Bridges healthy, to keep OG Anunoby healthy, to keep Jalen Brunson healthy, to keep Julius Randle healthy. They need to be very, very efficient, and they need to have a plan. And you don't need to work your guys into the ground. You don't need to go into the postseason with Brunson literally like on one foot. You know, you don't need every year Brunson goes into the playoffs with a foot soreness or foot injury that he's carrying around. You don't need to do that anymore. You don't need it. You can
this is where
survive
McBride's
these things.
useful though. Look, McBride right now
100%.
has a chance. Like, yo, if McBride is legit and Kolek is legit, like, not saying that they're not going to play Brunson, but you get my point, right? Like, they're not going to go, hey, Jalen Brunson, we've secured the 2 seed. We need you to play last 3 games full intensity. It's like, nah, just sit, chill. It's fine. Like, we'll get some, like the Celtics, they were on auto. They were like, Joe Mazzulla publicly was like, yeah, we're just trying shit. We're just trying shit right now. We'll see what works. And we're just messing around. Like, not that they weren't taking it serious, but they were experimenting with things for the postseason. They were getting their prep work and scouting work done in April, in March, right? Like, the Knicks weren't afforded that opportunity. They were playing a nail-biter game against Chicago to be the 2 seed. You know what I mean? Like, they were not playing these. Again, I'm not saying that Boston doesn't deserve to get that time off because they were that good. They deserve it. But the Knicks, they have to get off to a fast start. They can't be like 16-16 in December. Like, they were a 500 team going into the new year, basically. If you're gonna do that, you're gonna play these. You got to play your heart out in the spring, and then you get tired. You're gassed come the postseason. So they've got to, it's got to get off to a good start, maintain it all year. If you're the 3 seed, but you're comfortably the 3 seed, you've been playing good basketball all year, you don't have to play super high intensity games just to get to the seed you have to get. You can go into the postseason a little more rested, and I think that's important.
Absolutely, you have to go into the postseason well rested, and the Knicks now have that depth really to help get by, and they need to use it. They need to be very strategic in how they go about keeping Brunson healthy, keeping Randall healthy, keeping their key stars healthy. That's how you win the championships, man. You have your entire team ready to ball when the critical moments happen. And the truth is that, Brunson was carrying around injury the entire playoffs, the foot injury, then the broken hand. They didn't have Randall. OG Anunoby had a hamstring injury because they were playing, obviously trying to force him in there. And then he had the elbow injury late in the season. Then Josh Hart gets an abdominal injury because he's playing freaking 48 minutes a game. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, it's not sustainable. And we saw it. The proof is in the pudding. It wasn't sustainable. You can't do it. The Knicks need to use their depth. And now they have it. I just hope that Tom Thibodeau finds a good rotation here, that he can lean on those depth pieces to keep his core pieces healthy, because that is what wins championships. Health at critical moments. You cannot win games without Brunson. You're going to go nowhere in the playoffs without Brunson. You're going to go nowhere in the playoffs without your wings. You need these guys ready to ball. You're not going to beat the Celtics unless you're healthy. They figured out the key equation there. Now it comes down to the Knicks doing the same thing, and they have it. So hopefully, Tom Thibodeau kind of breaks out of his usual strategy and reformulates similar to what the Celtics have done, so that way we have these guys ready to go when the postseason does roll around. But guys, always happy to hear your thoughts down below in the comments section about Miles McBride, what you think his role will be, how important the depth is going to be in keeping these key pieces healthy for the longevity of the 2024-25 season. Always happy to hear your thoughts. Make sure to like and subscribe as always, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Knicks episode.